The sun had barely climbed over the horizon when John Miller pushed open the creaking barn doors, the familiar scent of hay and dust filling the morning air. His ranch was quiet, too quiet, as it had been for years. He moved with the steady rhythm of a man used to hard work but carrying an emptiness inside him that no labor could fill. His wife had been gone 3 winters now, and with her had gone the laughter, the warmth, and the hope of children he'd always dreamed of raising. John was a rancher through and through, tough as the land itself, yet beneath the calloused hands and weathered face, his heart ached for more than cattle and fences. Some nights he would stand under the endless Texas sky, staring at the stars, asking them why life had left him so alone. He had once believed that kindness, love, and the sweat of an honest man would be enough to build a family, but now those dreams felt buried beneath the dry soil. As he leaned against a fence post that morning, a gust of wind carried the sound of distant thunder. He looked up, expecting storm clouds, but the sky was clear. The earth itself began to tremble under his boots. At first, John thought he was imagining it, a trick of loneliness, but then, over the ridge, came 3 towering figures on horseback. They were women, giant women, so tall that the sun seemed to bend around them. Their presence filled the land with both awe and fear. John's heart pounded as they dismounted and approached, their steps shaking the dust from the ground. When they finally spoke, their voices were soft but powerful, carrying a promise that made John's breath catch: "We will have your baby." John's first instinct was disbelief. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, and stared again at the 3 women standing before him, their silhouettes casting long shadows across the ranch yard. His voice cracked as he stammered, What do you mean?" The women exchanged a knowing glance, and the tallest stepped forward, her expression calm yet filled with a strength he had never seen before. "You have lived with sorrow too long, rancher," she said. "We do not come to take from you, we come to give." John felt his knees weaken. He leaned back against the fence rail, gripping it as though it might anchor him to reality. The idea was absurd, impossible even, yet something in their tone stirred a hope he thought he had buried forever. The second woman spoke then, her voice like a lullaby carried on the prairie wind. She told him of places where broken hearts were healed by gifts of new life, where compassion had the power to mend the deepest wounds. "Your ranch is dry," she said, "but your soul still longs for tomorrow. We are here to carry that tomorrow." The third woman, whose eyes glowed with quiet kindness, added, "You have nothing to give us but your trust. That is enough." John's chest tightened as he listened. He wanted to resist, to call them liars or ghosts spun from his loneliness, but tears stung his eyes instead. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to imagine the impossible, laughter echoing through the farmhouse, tiny footsteps on wooden floors, a family he thought forever lost. His lips trembled as he whispered, "Why me?" The tallest woman knelt, bringing her immense form closer to his weary face. "Because love never leaves a good man empty-handed," she answered. That evening, the ranch seemed transformed. The golden glow of the setting sun spilled across the prairie, and John found himself seated at his worn kitchen table with the 3 women gathered around. The room, once silent and hollow, now brimmed with warmth. They shared food, simple bread, beans, and coffee, but somehow it felt like a feast. Between bites, the women spoke of distant lands where grief was met not with pity but with generosity, where those who had lost were given new beginnings. Their words wove pictures in John's mind: fields where strangers tilled side by side, villages where children were raised by many hands, and homes where kindness was the greatest currency. John listened, his rough hands wrapped around a tin cup, his heart stirring in ways he couldn't explain. "I don't understand why you choose me," he admitted, his voice rough as gravel. "I'm just one man on a ranch no one cares about." The second woman leaned forward, her eyes steady and full of light. "It is not about land or wealth," she said. "It is about a heart that still longs to give, even when it believes it has nothing left." Her words struck him like a hammer, breaking through the walls he had built around his grief. The women laughed as the fire cracked, their voices echoing through the small house. John felt something he hadn't felt in years, belonging. For the first time, the silence did not hurt. He realized then that their arrival wasn't about miracles or impossibilities, but about something greater, the power of compassion to see through loneliness and plant hope where despair had taken root. By the time the stars filled the night sky, John's tears had fallen freely, not from sorrow, but from the dawning belief that tomorrow could hold joy again. Months rolled by, and the ranch began to breathe again. The three women stayed, their presence turning the once lonely land into a place of laughter and life. They worked alongside John, their immense strength mending fences in half the time, plowing fields that had long been neglected, and lifting burdens he could no longer carry alone. But it wasn't just the land that changed, it was John himself. He found himself waking each morning with purpose, his heart lightened by the sound of voices humming through the fields and the glow of firelight at night that no longer felt empty. And then the day came. The sky was painted in hues of rose and gold when one of the women placed a small bundle in his arms. John looked down, his calloused hands trembling, barely daring to breathe. A baby, tiny, fragile, yet full of life, stirred against his chest. For a moment, the world stopped. All the years of silence, of aching for what had been taken from him, were replaced with a single, breathtaking truth: he was no longer alone. Tears spilled freely as John pressed his cheek against the infant's soft head. "I thought I'd lost everything," he whispered, his voice breaking under the weight of gratitude. "But you've given me tomorrow." The three women smiled, their towering forms gentle as they looked on. One of them spoke softly, almost like a prayer carried on the breeze, "This child is not just yours, John. This child belongs to love, and love never runs dry." For the first time since his wife's passing, John's heart beat not with sorrow but with joy. The baby's small cry filled the room, and in that fragile sound, he heard the promise of life reborn. The dawn was quiet the morning the giant women prepared to leave. The sky stretched wide and pale, streaked with the first light of day, and John stood on the porch with the baby cradled close to his chest. The child's tiny breaths warmed his skin, and though joy filled him, he felt a deep ache knowing their time together was ending. The women mounted their great horses, their silhouettes towering against the horizon. For a long moment, none of them spoke. Then the tallest woman leaned down, her voice calm and steady. "You have what you need now. Raise this child with the love you've carried all your life. That will be enough." John swallowed hard, his throat tight. "I don't know how to thank you," he said, rocking the baby gently. "You've given me more than I ever dreamed." The second woman's smile was soft as she answered, "Thank us by living fully. Thank us by never letting loneliness take your hope again." The third woman lifted her hand in farewell, her eyes glimmering with kindness. "Remember," she said, "the greatest strength is not in size or might, but in giving when the world feels empty." With that, they turned their horses and rode across the open plains, their figures shrinking until they vanished into the horizon. John stood there long after they were gone, holding his child close. The ranch was quiet again, but it was no longer the silence of sorrow. It was the peaceful hush of a home where new life had begun. He breathed deep, the air rich with the scent of earth and dawn, and whispered to the baby, "We'll be all right. We're not alone anymore." And in that moment, hope rooted itself deep in the soil of his heart, steady and unshakable as the land he loved.